The completed Genmitsu LE5040. Let's get started with the base assembly. This is going to be a fun project. Oops, don't kick the tripod. Okay, base assembly. We need these big wide pieces, the shorter. There's a third one that kind of looks the same, but it's longer, and that will end up going here and traveling back and forth. So what we need are those, and then we need the smaller square piece. I probably should peel the protective layer off. I wish these pieces had come with the protective layer, but I didn't. All right. And there we go. Let's go in the trash. Okay. Oh, come on. I need smaller fingers to get at these. You know what I can use? There we go. Alright, yeah. I'm just setting it there for no better reason than that's where it's gonna go. Okay, now this is pretty straightforward. We just take the M520s and you'll see that there's a hole drilled right in here, and that hole, one of the nuts goes through that and threads right into the end of this channel. So it's pretty straightforward. So we'll just see if we can get these guys out of here. Ooh, it's kind of a tight fit. There we go. We'll get this one in while we're at it. Alright, there. Now these bolts didn't want to slide in on their own, but with a little help from that bolt, that M520, there, it's going in nicely. Alright, and we don't really need to be too careful about keeping this flat. I mean, it's nice aesthetically so that it looks good. It's just, this is where the Y is going to travel on here when this gets assembled. This is going to sit on here and travel back and forth. So these two pieces just need to be parallel. And then this is going to be where the X-axis travels. So let's get the other side. We'll do the same thing. We'll just get these started. You might want to clean some of this out too. There's, from the drilling, there's still some burrs that get left inside of the channel. So, wouldn't be a bad idea just to blow those out. Of course, I'm too lazy to do that. I'll get that cleaned up later. Alright, there. Catching. Nice. Nice. So we'll just get that twisted in. Okay. Come on out. There we go. There it goes in. Alright, all four of these are in now. You can feel that with your thumb, whatever. See if they're kind of flat. Alright. We'll tighten up this other side as well. Use the old built-in torque sensor in my hand. Get that exactly the right number of foot-pounds. Okay. All right. That seems to be done. Okay, one other thing that I had to do to this is put this on a nice flat surface. And what I found was it wasn't flat this way. It was kind of torqued a little bit, twisted. So these two sides would wobble back and forth and these two would pivot. So I loosened the bolts just slightly, twisted it, tightened it back up, did that a couple times, made sure it was nice and flat, and I got it to a point where it sits nice on a flat surface. So do that adjustment now and then you won't have to deal with it later. This is going to be the assembly. I'll get this over here. It's going to be this assembly, the right bracket assembly. And what we need, we need the coupler, or the coupling, I guess. Coupling. We need these M325s. We need these nylon spacers, M316s. We need this piece of acrylic. Yep, like that, okay. And we need a stepper motor. We also need this Allen wrench, and I think we maybe need that smaller one. Let me go check that. Let's get the coupler opened up here. Okay, so yep, we do need this wrench as well. Okay, so the two smaller wrenches, the coupler, this bag. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to peel off this protective covering from this piece of acrylic. If I can find a good spot to get started. I just cut my nails. There we go. Oh, look at that. Nice shiny. That's going to get messed up soon enough. That's on there pretty well. Probably doesn't help that it's 1,000,000 degrees below zero here in the CNC Home, the CNC at Home basement. There we go. That thrown in the trash. See if we can do a better job on this side. Now that we have some experience. Alright, get that started. seems the holes are, there we go, where it has the most issue. Boom, one piece. Okay. Let's get these directions moved a little bit so that we can see what we're doing. All right. Okay, looks like I'll probably put the coupler on. You know, I'm going to put it on first, just because that's how I roll. So we'll get the coupler on, and I'm not going to put it all the way down because I don't want it to rub, so I'll just leave a small gap. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me in the future. And just tighten up these set screws. Okay. Interesting. They're not completely opposite each other. But there are just two of them. Interesting. Make sure it's nice and tight. And this coupler is kind of an interesting, I don't know if you can see that. See this groove that's cut? It's a helical groove cut all the way through this. So this actually has a little bit of flex to it. Kind of cool. Alright, so we've got that. Let's get this bag open. Okay, so looking at the picture, looks like we take these guys, we drop them through, bada bing, bada boom. Alright, and then on the other side, we'll put the spacers on. Okay, and then we mount the motor. And it goes something like this. But what is not pictured in here very well is where the connector is. So let me do a little quick research, see if we can see how that is configured later on. Okay, so it looks like on this picture, it looks like the wiring is at the bottom. So I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to put it over on the side, because I think that'll work better for us. Okay, so I think I'm going to mount it that way. Alright, so I'll just get this lined up. Start all of these. All right. And we can always change this later. If it turns out that that is not a good orientation, by cracky, we can change it. Nothing says that we have to do it this way. Alright. Alright, those are on there pretty good. Okay. So, here are all the pieces that we're going to need for the 4 V-groove bearing installation. We have the right bracket assembly with the stepper motor mounted. We're going to need some of these V-groove bearings. We're going to need some of these hex nuts. We'll need some M5x30 bolts, and we'll need these little nylon spacers. These are the M5 7mm spacers. And of course we'll need our Allen wrench for that. This is the bigger Allen wrench. So let's grab 4 of these bolts out of here. Here's our first step. Get these little bags open. I really should just cut them open with a knife. Alright, we need 4 of those. And we'll need 4 spacers. Run away! Come back here. Come back here, you. And we need 8 of these hex nuts. There's 2, 3, 4. 8. And we only need 4 of these V-groove bearings right now. There we go. Oh, got it. Come on, 4. I need 4 of you guys. There we go. Okay. So these are going to come through from the back side. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we have our little nylon spacers go on here. Yeah, and then okay, now we don't want to get these too tight, but I do want them a little bit tighter, so I'm going to tighten them just a little bit. With the Allen wrench. Alright. Now, pop the bearings on. Boom, 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 boom. And then hex nuts go on. Right, these guys torque down here with my finger torque wrench. Make sure these bearings still move. They move. They don't spin freely though, but they do move. So I'm betting that this will be riding on this guy. What do you think? Maybe? Well, not on this one. Okay. Alright, so now we have the V-groove bearings installed. What's next? next is the left bracket assembly. So it's the other side or the counter to this one. So let's put this guy aside. Yeah, let's get all the pieces that we need. Now, what do we need? We need acrylic sheet B. This looks like acrylic sheet B. Okay, we need the 30mm M5 30s. Where are you guys? Right, so there's 4 more of those. We need the 7mm nylon. Pretty sure that's what these guys are. Yeah, these are the 7mm nylons. More V-bearings. More hex nuts. Alright, so we got hex nuts, bearings, hex nuts. Okay, we're set to go. The first step is going to be to precisely move this protective layer off the acrylic. We can just pull it up enough to get it started. Almost. See if we can get this one in one piece. Ah! Now ignore that. Ignore that. That's not a piece. That's just sticky, right? Almost. If I'd taken a little more care, I could have gotten that. All right. I want to take this off the back side as well. Or maybe this is the front side. Who's to say? Boom. One piece on that. Okay. So, this is pictured thusly, and the screws come in from the back. So let's dump these out. There's those 4. Why did I close this back up? Yeah, that was a smart move to do. That's why, because they like to run away. I'm going to need 8 of these guys. How many do you suppose are in here? 2, 4, 6, oh, more than 8. So 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we need 4 of these little gems. All right. Okay, so from this orientation, we want to put these guys through. Come on through. All right, this guy's going to be stubborn. So let's apply some twisting force. All right. See if the rest of these are as stubborn. It's interesting that they go mainly in, but then they stop at the end. Okay, well, there's an attractive sound. I don't know if that came through in the video. That was a high-pitched squeak. Let's I got that in there. Okay, one more. Okay. So then our spacers go on. These spaced in there, okay, and then we put a hex nut. On each one of these. Come on. There we go. You're still... Nay, stay on here. This guy's still sticking out a little bit. Interesting. All right. Come on. Don't want... There we go. Don't want that guy to try to cross thread. All right, get these all hand torqued down. We'll slide these V bearings on. And then, yes, more hex nuts. There. Boy, these little buggers like to be cross-threaded, so make sure to get those hooked up on the threads correctly. And last but not least, hex number 8 on this. Okay, so there's a left bracket assembly. That's all done. Here are all the components for the laser module assembly. We've got the piece of acrylic. We've got our M38s, a whole bag of them. I only need 4 of them. 3 on the bottom and then 1 over here. And we've got the laser module itself. So that's all we need for this step. So it says we need 4 of these, so we get out 4 of those. Oh, and you know what else we're going to need? We need the M3 Allen wrench for this. Let's make sure that's the right one. Oh yeah. Okay. Oh, more peeling. This is great. But it certainly protects the acrylic, so it's nice and pretty. Well, for the most part. Pull that off. That was nice of them to get that one started for us. Boom. That pretty piece of plastic. Now, that looks symmetrical. So, doesn't matter which side we do this. We do one. It goes through there. That's deceiving. It looks like it goes through this hole, but that's way too big of a hole. So this M3 is adjustable for, I assume, different sizes of lasers. So we've got a 3 at the bottom. Boom, boom, boom. And then we've got just the one here in the middle. Kind of hard to see on that drawing. Not too hard to see, but Alright, so let's get these lined up. Get those in there. Where are those holes? There they are. There we go. And we'll get these guys in here. We'll get them hand tight, and then we'll use the Allen wrench to finish them off. Alright, and then this guy comes down here. Get in there. Come on. Alright. Maybe if I tilt the acrylic a little bit. Hey, there we go. Okay. We'll just use the Allen wrench to spin that guy on a little more quickly. Alright, so get this guy torqued down. Perfect. Perfect. And this last one. Whoa! I didn't get that one quite as tight. Okay. Boom. That was pretty straightforward. Danger. Okay, so we have the laser module assembly done. Alright, we have all of the parts assembled here. We've got our piece of acrylic. This is acrylic sheet D. It'd be nice if they were labeled, but they're pretty obvious, so not necessary. We've got our M3/8 again. Here are the synchronous wheels. Got this little groove in there, and that'll go on the timing belt. There's also a little set screw, so we'll need the other Allen wrench. So we need this for the M3s, and then we need that little tiny Allen wrench. For that little set screw. And then we'll just need 4 of these guys. So let's get 4 of them out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And we only need 1. Notice I pre-opened this bag, so you didn't have to watch me fumble with that. Okay. 1 of those. Oh! Look, we get to peel off more paper. Yeah, this is gonna be fun. I really should have done this before I cut my fingernails. Alright, here we go. Oh! Ooh. Alright, that was sweet. Pull that off. Alright. Getting the hang of it. Well, this one's coming right off. Boom! That was too easy. Okay, this piece also looks fairly symmetrical, so we're going to assume that it is. And we'll start with that. Big hole up on top. And okay, I'm going to put this on first. And again, I don't know exactly where this needs to be. Yeah, so we'll probably have to adjust it later. So I'm not going to crank it down too tight, but tight enough. I'll leave just a little bit of a gap so that it's not binding up on anything. And then we'll just run these little set screws in. Yep, there it bit. Okay. Nope. It's not moving freely. I'm going to raise that up just a little bit more. It's about a 1/2 millimeter of space. Yeah, that moves much better. And we'll probably have to adjust this when we assemble it, when we actually get that tightening belt on here to drive through that. We'll probably have to adjust this in or out just a little bit so that it lines up nicely. But yeah, that's not catching on anything. Okay. We need to put 4 bolts through, and we're going to run into the same issue as far as orientation. Not an issue, but what will be the best orientation for this motor. Again, if we need to, not that big of a deal to pull out. But now, do we want the connection in the bottom, side, top? Let's look through, see if we can see a picture of that. What's going to be the best for our, see, I went to the wiring. That's where we want to see that. Okay, not that one. Oh, great. Yeah, they don't really show that, do they? Alright, but we know okay, that's going to be mounted up like that. All the wiring is going to go that way, so I'm going to orient the motor so that the plug goes on this side. So the plug will be facing that way in that picture. So looking on the back side, it would actually be facing that way. That way we can run the cable down here with the cable wrap, get it into the drag chain, and then back to the controller. Again, if we need to, not a huge deal to rotate this motor to a different orientation if we need it. So let's, where are our holes here? There we go. There's one. There's the other. Okay. Get these finger tight. Let me get that one there. Can't see that very well, can you? That's my tightening fingers. Okay. And then we'll just go around and tighten those up a little bit better. Alright. Oop, come on. Tight. And then come out. There we go. Tighten that up. Finally this one. Alright. Okay. So we have the X-axis stepper motor assembly-ish completed. Here are all the components that we're going to need to put these two pieces together. We've got hex nuts again, so we've got our hex nuts. We have this piece, the stepper motor on it. We've got nylon spacers, and these are the M510s. And how do I know they're M510s? I can measure them with my ruler and see that they are 10 millimeters. Okay, so we've got those, and then they're calling these gaskets. They look like washers, but apparently they're gaskets. More V-bearings, more spacers, more gaskets, and then we have the M545s. Again, I know these are 45s because I can measure them from the base of the head to the end of the thread, 45 millimeters. So get a little measuring device. It comes in handy for ensuring that you're using the correct bolts, because you don't want to end up using a too short of a bolt or too long of a bolt on any of these steps, because it's going to going to bite you down the road. So let's start with the laser assembly. We will open up this bag, get these 4 bolts out, okay, and run those through the back here. So we'll run through here, 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 and here. Alright. Now, if a guy was smart, I suppose I could unplug the controller board. That's if a guy was smart. I'm going to leave it for now. Okay. So, we've got gaskets going on next. So I'll just start with 4 gaskets. Slide one over each one of these. Alright. Come on down. Come on down. There we go. And then what's next? Spacers. 1, 2, 3, 4 spacers. And we'll just slide these on. These guys like to run away. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Yeah. This is the last of the bearings. That one on, that one, that one. Oh boy, look, he's getting so close. Yep, so far away. 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 4 more gaskets here. That one on. That one on. That one on. And the last one. There we go. Okay. And then what goes on next? Spacers. 4 more spacers. Boom. 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 Alright. And then stepper motor. This baby should just slide right on. Hopefully. Just like magic. Okay. Good enough. Hex nuts. Hex nuts. Hex nuts. All right. Okay. Make sure they don't get cross-threaded if you need to. Turn it. There we go. Turn it counterclockwise until you hear it click onto the thread. And then you make sure that you're not going to cross-thread these. If you're doing it by hand, it would be difficult to do any damage cross-threading them, unless you had vice grip hands. Oh, that one's close to the stepper motor. There we go. Okay. So I'm just going to give these a little turn with the Allen wrench and hold the nut in place while I'm doing that. Okay, and one more. All right. That looks like we have another assembly completed. We got these two parts together. So that bar will ride right through here. Nope. 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 And no. Over tightened. So let's loosen this up a little bit. Okay, so there's a good lesson. On this particular one, hand tight is about all the tighter you want to get those. Otherwise, they're not going to move freely enough for this to travel back and forth. Okay, so hand tighten, hand tighten. Hey, now they actually turn. All right. Okay. Now we have this assembly done. After doing some investigating, I found that the laser control module actually mounts up here behind the X-axis stepper motor. I'm going to mount it like this. That way the wiring can come in here nice and easily. It's connected with two of what they're calling self-tapping screws. So that one screws in here, one screws in there. So let's get that done. There, now that's solidly mounted. I think what I'll do is I'm going to run these cables through these slots because I can. Plugged back in. I have all the parts assembled now for this step. We've got our aluminum profile. We have the linear axis rod. We've got 2 synchronous wheels. We have our bearing and spacer. It's a little 3mm spacer. They're in the same bag, so that was convenient. And then we have some M510s to run through there, and our Allen wrench. We've got our left and right pieces, and we also have our laser module. Okay. First thing we want to do is get this plastic off of here. That's just going to get in the way. Oh, boy, this stuff's really sticking to this. Oh, that was no good. All right. I'll get back to you on this. A couple minutes of off-camera work and we've got this cleaned up. Boy, I'm just going to stick this right on. Oh. I feel like it's coming together. Oh yeah. Okay, so there's that piece. Again, guy was smart. I would have disconnected that. Oh well.
This one.
Alright, now we need to get this linear axis put together with all of its pieces. And we'll start with maybe. Okay, I'll put it in on the other side so I don't have to push it so far. Alright, so we get one on that side. Interesting. This is the way they show it in the instructions. They both are facing the same direction. What is going on down here? This rod seems to be almost a little bit too big on this side, or no, it's this piece. Hang on. We may need to do a little work on this. The diameter here is just a little bit too small. It seems a little tight. So when I put this on, it... Oh, there it goes now. Maybe there's just a burr in there. Okay. Cool. We got that piece on. Alright. Then comes the spaced out spacer. That goes on next. So we slide that on, and then the bearing goes on. Now the bearing is going to fit in this hole. And there are two ways to do it. Well, there's only one way that's going to work. If you'll notice the profile, there's a little lip on there. So we want to make sure to push the other side through. Okay. Might need a tool for this. Oh, no, I can get it with my thumb. Ah! Still not all the way in. So, it's going to require some more force. Maybe an Allen wrench will help me on this one. Nope, she's still in there a little crooked. Almost. Alright, it just needed a little persuasion. But it's in there. It's in there now. So, this is going to go right in here. Like so. Not quite sure how far it's going to go in. Come on. Boy, that's a tight fit. It makes me think that this rod is just a little bit too long on the end. Too long. Too wide. She doesn't want to fit down in there very well. Which is probably a good thing, because then it won't pop out once we get her in. Anyway, that's generally how that's going to go. And we need to get out 4 of these M10s. Now the picture makes this look way longer. If you look at that picture, look, it looks like a really long bolt that goes in there. But if we take our ruler and we measure it, we see that it's 10 millimeters and it's calling for 10 millimeter, and that's the M5. Yep. So what we want to do then is we're going to bolt this guy onto here, something like that. So let's get these things started. Start with make sure they go in through the holes. Don't want to struggle with that. Okay. I'll start the top one. Doesn't really matter, I guess, top or bottom. And get that in there. All right. Then we'll start the bottom one. Okay, not too tight yet. But we'll bring that in close. And we'll I backed this one up a little bit. I thought maybe I'd cross-threaded it, but I hadn't. So that one's good. Alright, now that they're both somewhat flush, then we'll torque these down so they'll stay in place. Alright. Now I'm going to be radical here. I'm going to spin this baby around. And then what we'll do next is we will attach this guy over here. Now, this is going to need to fit in here. Make sure that those are loose. There's my little Allen wrench here. Alright. Yeah, that one's loose. That one's loose. Okay. I'll make sure that... Ah, there we go. There, she slides in there nice now. Okay. And then what we'll do is we need to figure out how to make up this about 5mm gap we have here. And I think it's because that rod needs to get pushed into this bearing further. So let's see if we can do that without breaking anything. Nope, she doesn't want to go willingly. So I may have to use a persuader on that. Let me get back to you. It took a little bit of convincing. Ignore the hammer. What I did is I put this on a nice flat surface and I tapped. I did not pound, I tapped lightly on our rod. And I was able to get it now. You can see it's protruding slightly from the end. It still moves nice and smoothly on the bearing. And now on this end, when we put this into our coupler, it slides in and we can get this flush. If I do this correctly in one hand, there we go. We can get this flush now to our cross member. So let's get that bolted on. Again, we'll start with the top one. Get it started. And then we'll get the bottom one started. It's turned. It's kind of hard to reach in there, so I'm going to use my Allen wrench to help me reach in there and get that turned into place. And make sure that's in place too, right? Alright. Okay. Now I'm going to put a little bit of pressure on this one, so I'll turn the Allen wrench so I can get a little more leverage. Ooh. Make sure they're about the same tension. There we go. Now, remember these set screws. We'll need to get those tightened as well because we need this rod to be connected to the stepper motor. And so it's in the coupler, but it's not connected until we tighten these down. Alright, so once we tighten these down, then as the stepper motor turns there, now you can see the movement. So I'll just tighten that down. Go to the other set screw. Get that, there we go, get that turned. And that one's tightened. Alright. And this will be down here somewhere. Okay. Alright, so turn this back around so it matches the picture and the directions. We have this piece done. Here's what we're marrying together. We have our base frame that we put together in our first step, and then we have our gantry that we put together in the last several steps. And what we'll just do is just pop this on, make sure it lines up on both sides. Oh, so close, almost had it. There, yep. Okay. Slide that on. Again, watch the electronics. You don't want to destroy those. Those will get mounted one of these steps, hopefully. And there. Oh, yeah. Okay. Got that done. And what's next? Of course. Now we get to put the feet on. And the reason we put the feet on after we put the gantry on is if the feet were in place, we wouldn't have been able to slide that on. The pieces are assembled here. We've got M510s, we've got our acrylic sheet E, and we also have this T-slot nut. It's a 20M5, so we'll need 4 of those, and 12 of those. And then here on page 17, that kind of shows us what we're going to need to do to get all this stuff on there. One thing that I did find as I was going through these M510s is I found a couple of them, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on the camera, they're a little bit longer. And one of them was an 11, the other one was a 12. So I'm assuming that's just poor quality control on whoever made these bolts, but we don't care. Got a dozen of them here that are the right size. Got the T-nuts, and we can start assembling this. See how this goes. Let me move the camera down here. Well, actually first, it's paper peeling time. Almost got it in one piece. Alright, we've got our 4 acrylic feet out. Okay, let's see, these are M5, so we need our M5 Allen wrench for this project. And so you guys can see what I'm doing, I'm going to move the camera. Alright, what we're going to do is we're going to take a leg, and I'm going to start by putting the T-nut on first. If you've never used a T-nut, they're kind of cool the way that they work. They slide into the channel, and then as you're torquing this down, they turn. It's like this, so then they can't come out. It's kind of a neat feature. So I'll just put this, and there's a little bump. So it's rounded here. Okay, and that's going to go in. And so this little collar sticks out towards your part, away from the rail. So we'll start this, just get it on a little bit. Okay, hopefully that's not too much. Okay, and then we'll stick it on. And we can do this just about anywhere, but we'll do it over here where it's supposed to be. And it tightens right up. So before we get that too tight, I want to go ahead and get these guys started. Come on. There we go. No. Let's apply a little juice. There. Okay, so now that these are lined up where they're supposed to be, I can go ahead and tighten them down. I wish I could show you inside how that T-nut actually works, but like I said, it turns, and so it's now vertical. So that little T-nut, it started this way, and as we're tightening it down, it turns, and now it's vertical behind there, and it won't come out. It's really kind of neat. Whoever invented that was kind of a smart person. Or they got lucky. Maybe they had a broken nut and they just found out that that worked. Okay, we've got one leg. Now we just keep going. And we put 3 more on. So let's see, this one goes on like that. There. T-nut on. One more T-nut. So we line it up horizontally, slide it in the channel, and we just tighten it down. And it turns over all on its own. All right. Let's get a better camera angle. Okay. See how this... Oh yeah, look at that. This is going to slide back and forth this way. Yeah, see this? There's some adjustments going to need to happen here. If we look inside, here, let's see, get that in the camera's view. See, this is gonna have to come out a little bit because it's gonna need to line up with this channel because that's where that belt's gonna go. So that'll have to get loosened up. But all in all, whew, we're just getting that much closer to cutting stuff with the new laser. Okay, let's get this control board put together. Of course, one more piece of acrylic. We've got to pull the paper off of this. Oof. Yeah, let's see if we can get there. There we go. Something satisfying about getting that to come off in one piece. Okay, so we will start from the back and work our way forward. So we need 4 of these. Let's take a peek here. This piece looks symmetrical. So let's just pop these through. All right. Go. Here, I thought I'd be fast enough to get those just to stay in there. Let's force them to stay that way. There. Now we're going to put on these copper columns. So they should just screw right on here. I said they should just screw right on. I probably should just do one of these one at a time. What do you think? Yeah, one at a time probably would have been a lot better. Just put a little pressure on that. That'll hold the bolt from spinning while I screw these columns on. Oh, cross threading. Come on. What's wrong with you? This one's misbehaving. Oh, boy, that one just doesn't want to go on. Hold that with the Allen wrench. It just feels like it's trying to cross thread. The other side is bad. Maybe there's a burr in there. Could be the bolt too. Let's try a different bolt. See how it goes on now. Oh, that was the issue. So, something goofy with this Mr. Bolt. We'll set him aside. Hopefully there's an extra one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ugh. Maybe not. We'll fix it if we have to. We'll make it work. Get these on. Nice and tight. Not too tight. Nice and tight. Okay. Then the board goes on. Thusly. Look at that. Just like the picture. So let's get 4 more of these out. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. not too tight. We don't want to crack the board. It's not like this thing weighs a ton either. This is plenty overkill to hold this board in place, even with all the movement that's going to go on. Although this shouldn't be moving. A little vibration, I suppose, but it shouldn't be moving. I'm going to use this. Oh, just being a tough guy. What's going on? They're all doing that. They're bumping into each other, aren't they? Am I using the right bolts? What did this call for? M8s. Are these M8s? Let's measure and find out. Five, 6, 7, 8. Something's not right there, is it? This board should not move up and down like that. Let me look into that. Alright, let's do a little math here. We have M3/8 bolts. We have a M3/8 hex nut. Okay, so that means that this guy is 8 millimeters long. So we have 4 millimeters from each one of these bolts can go in until they run into each other. That leaves a total of 8 millimeters left. The problem is this is only 4.5 millimeters approximately. That's 4.5, and the board is about 1.7, 1.6, something like that. So 4.5, 5.5, 6, just over 6 millimeters. So we've got 2 millimeters extra on these bolts. So it's not going, this board is not going to sit flush. I don't know if that's going to be an issue. This is the hardware they gave me. I will contact Sane Smart and see if I can get an answer on that. Okay, after measuring, remeasuring, checking, looking, this is just too big. I'm not missing a part, am I? No, no. So, yeah, either the acrylic isn't as thick as it should be. I doubt the PC board is thinner than it should be. That looks pretty standard. So, you can get this close. You can see there's a slight gap between the board and the top of the head of the bolt. And it's on each one of these. Because we're about 2 millimeters short, or long, I guess, on each one of these. So I'll leave this for now this way and just continue with the build, and I will contact Sane Smart to see what their suggestion is. I would cut these down. It's just I don't have a M3 cutter. I have English units. I can go down to a 440. I can cut that. And that might work. I could try it, but I just don't want to at this point. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, what's our next step? Now that we have this loosely connected, our next step is to mount this onto our frame. So let's pull the frame over, and we'll get 2 M5s, and we'll do that next step. I have a controller board. I have two M510s. If you remember from earlier, we found that a couple of these M510s were bordering on 11 and 12. Hopefully that won't affect us on this because we've got plenty of room in the rail behind these T-nuts, so that extra millimeter really shouldn't affect us. So let's hope not. Okay, according to the directions, we put these M5s through the middle. And I'll get the T-nut again with the collar towards the acrylic board. Get that started on there. And we'll put this one through. And the collar towards the board. Get, come on. There we go. Get that started. Alright, so board goes in this orientation, and we want both of these T-nuts horizontal. And then that'll slide right on. Now the cool part is this clear. We might actually be able to see those T-nuts camming into position as I tighten this. Boom. Alright, you probably couldn't see that one. Let me see if I can get this camera in a little bit better position for when we tighten this one up. See if we can see this actually turn in there. Got a little extra light in there. Of course, the camera is now in the way. Literally. Oops. Now we'll just pull back just a little bit. There we go. Now as this tightens up, and it's starting to turn. See that? It's starting to turn, and then it gets vertical in there. Right as we get tight. Alright. That's how that T-nut works. Pretty slick. You remember how I said that one of these bolts was a little bit longer? That was this guy. Turns out there's not enough room for a M510 that's a little bit longer for, you know, about an M11 or M511 to 12. There was a gap, so pulled that one off. What I did was I took this guy out, because this one literally can be as long as it needs to be. So I pulled, this is actually the long one. So I swapped these two guys around. The board fits perfectly fine now. So if you run into that, these two bolts on all four corners can run long and it won't affect you. So those would be the ones to swap out if you do have those extra ones. Alright, according to the directions, let's take a peek here. We've got the timing belt connected with an M38 using an M310 5.5 square nut. Doesn't quite seem to be what's provided. Don't know what these things are. This is an M38. And there's a couple of those left with all the bolts. This is what came in the bag with the T-nuts. It's a 6mm. You can see the difference. I hold them up here. It's definitely smaller. It's also not an M3 head. It's a smaller head. It is the same size as our set screws and stuff, so it uses the smallest Allen wrench. So keep that in mind, that the bolt size is slightly different. Now we've got our square or rectangular, what did they call them? Square nuts that are rectangular, and these smaller bolts do screw in there just fine and dandy. Now it's not very clear in the instructions how to attach this timing belt. So I did some experimenting, I did some looking online, there really wasn't much there. So how they have it pictured is not how that works. It'd have been nice if it worked like a T-nut, like we've used before, but that's not how that goes in. So I will show you what I found that seems to work, and we'll get this installed. Let me readjust the camera so I can show you how the belt goes on. I think I'll show that from up on top here. Okay, the belt rides down in this channel, underneath the V-bearing, then over the drive, and then underneath this V-bearing and all the way out to the end. And it gets attached at either end then with the teeth facing down. It gets attached with one of these guys, and the best as I can tell is we kind of put it in like a T-nut, and then as we tighten it down it will turn, but only part way. There's not enough room for it to cam all the way around, so it ends up being in there just a little bit sideways. Seems to hold the belt in place. Cross our fingers on that one. So how do we get this belt threaded underneath here, over this, under that? The best way to do that is to start in the middle, and we'll actually go from this side. We'll go underneath. Let me get it from over here. I'll get a better angle. There we go. We'll go over the gear and get it to slide underneath the V-bearing. See, it's down here. And I can use one of my Allen wrenches real quickly and just pop that up out of here so I can grab a hold of it. It's not paying attention. I said pop up so I can get a hold of it. It worked so much easier before. There we go. Alright, so we just have that sit out there. And then we do the same thing for the other side. Just push this down. There it goes. Alright, and I can grab a hold of it. Make sure the belt's not twisted. Alright, and it reaches to both sides. So I'm going to pull this way. And we'll want to have this belt somewhat tight, but we don't want to stretch it super tight because then it'll just bind up. It also seems to be fitting over on this side pretty well because we already tightened this down. There's a spacer, so that one was kind of already tightened down. So let's get this locked down. See how that works. So I'll get this nut down here, and we'll just start tightening it up. Now come on, slide over. Let's try that again. Unfortunately, these don't work like the T-nuts, where the T-nuts are really slick in that they turn themselves as you tighten it. They kind of cam themselves into position. So I kind of have to force this one around. Boy, it wants to go the other way. I'll futz with it here for a little bit. Yeah. Ooh, boing. Let's loosen it. Alright, let's try that again. There we go. Okay, now she's in there a little bit crooked. That's what we want. We'll start to tighten it up. Okay, so now that I've started it this way, it kind of acts like one of the T-nuts, and it twisted itself into place. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and tighten it down a little bit. So what that's doing is the bolt's actually digging down into the belt, and it's pulling that nut up. So now it's in there solid. It's not going anywhere. Okay, so that one's in place. Now all we need to do is just swing this around and get the other side without breaking anything. Got to remember this stuff moves around. Alright. I need a bigger table. There we go. Okay, so we're going to do this on this side now. Same procedure. We're going to put the nut in place. Try and get it to cam around. There, that one's cooperating a little bit more than the other one. It slid right around. Okay, now before I get that tight, I want to pull the belt. Nope, too tight already. Let's loosen it up just a little bit. And make sure the belt's down in that groove. All right, now, again, we don't want this belt too tight. That's going to be a bad thing. I know you guys can't see this. There we go. I just want to tighten it real quick. All right. Okay. So it's plenty tight. It's still a little loose. I can see that it's loose because it's twisting here. But there's enough tension where it's not jumping off that drive gear. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down. There, get that locked in place. I'm going to leave that little extra for now, because I don't know. I just don't know what we're going to run into. Okay, let's get this spun around and we'll get the other side done. And we'll use the same process on here. Get the camera spun around a little bit. Okay, so what we want to do is we'll start in the middle. Now this one is loose. It says I want to tighten that up. Once we get the belt on it, then we get it positioned exactly how we want that. So here's the other belt. Again, we'll start in the middle. And we will thread it down underneath that V-bearing. And then we'll do the same thing for this side. Get it down underneath. There it goes. Down underneath the V-bearing. And then I can just use my Allen wrench to pop that up real quick so I can grab it. Boom, boom, boom. Nice. Okay. So somewhere about like that. Now what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and tighten this guy down. Now that I've got the belt in place, we know where we want to have this drive gear, right about there. So I'll go ahead and boy, these don't move easily at all. We'll get it close to being tight and then we'll reposition. Oh, there we go. And we'll get this one close to being tight and then we'll reposition. You guys can't see that. Alright, loosen it up. Okay. Alright, belt is tight. Pull it this way just a smidge. And then we'll tighten it down. Alright. We'll verify that. Okay, that looks good. We'll walk it forward, and we'll get this other set screw locked down. Now we can always adjust this later if we haven't gotten it exactly right. We can get that adjusted a little bit more. Okay, so on the front, what I want to do is get this belt pulled back a little bit. There we go. So we really don't have a whole lot sticking out. This is going to be the front of the machine. I'll leave the excess stick out the back. Now we'll get another one of these quote-unquote square nuts. See if we can get this started down in here and turned. Not too much. It's kind of tricky to get it going, but once it's in place, then it seems to work just fine. I don't have excessively large hands, but this is pretty small work. Maybe I need to get somebody with smaller hands. There we go. Got her sideways. Now we'll go ahead and pull it forward, put a little pressure on there, and get that tightened down. Okay. And we'll apply the last amount of pressure when we do the back side. Alright, make sure that the belt is in there over our gear, and then pull it tight. Okay, so then all we have to do is this last one. Back to the control board here. Okay, so we'll just make sure that there's, again, not really tension. We just want to make sure it's lying flat down in the channel, snuggish. And then the trick is going to be get this nut in and get it to turn sideways. Once it's turned sideways, then we should be able to lock it in place. Okay, we got it turned sideways. Okay. Pull the belt tight-ish. Again, snug. Shouldn't say tight. Just get it snug. There we go. Not too tight, but enough to hold everything in place. Oh yeah, that looks good. Okay. Now, we just have to repeat that same process up here on top. Because guess what? We've got another belt up here. We're going to repeat this process for our x-axis travel on the gantry. You'll notice that the synchronous gear, I've loosened it because we, again, need to align that so that the belt runs straight over it. We don't want it scraping on the side. So I will wait until the belt is on, and then I will adjust, do kind of a final adjustment and tighten it just like we did over here. Where? Over on this side. So the first thing, we grab the belt. Now this is a slightly longer belt, timing belt than on the other side, so it stretches from one side of the X travel to the other without any trouble. There's plenty of slack. I'm going to do the same process. I'm going to start in the middle and go down. There we go. And I can use my Allen wrench just to pop that up a little bit. There we go. And then the other side of the belt, we do the same way. Make sure that we're keeping the teeth down, the flat side is up, and it's not twisted. We push it through there. This one just popped up for me. Make sure that this nice, we want this nice and flat on that synchronous wheel. And that's going to be our first adjustment. Let's get that synchronous wheel adjusted out where it needs to be. A little further in. About there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten this up. Double check that we're where we want to be. Looks good. In our track. Okay, now I'll go ahead and tighten this other one. Just like that. Hey, Bonnie. Okay, so now we want to get this belt somewhat centered in our X travel. Like so. And it's the same process that we did down below. We want to get that little square nut on top of here, get it to cam over to the side. We want to get over to the edge here as far as we can. We want to make sure that we're not limiting our gantry travel at all. Get that pulled over. Yeah, that's how we want it, right there. You stay. You stay there. You get over there like that. Yeehaw! Right up. Oh, that's right where we want it. Get that nice and tight. Okay. That's not going anywhere. That was probably the easiest one so far. Okay, so let's make sure that belt is tight. Okay. Now we need to do the same thing over here on the far side. So we get one more of these nuts. Let me grab that. I'll just pull this down. Turn the camera just a little bit. Nope, we'll leave the camera square. How about we just slide the camera down? There we go. Okay, so again, we don't need to pull this really tight. We just need to make sure that it's snug. And we'll take this square nut, pop it down in there. There we go. Yep. Okay. Boy, I hope you can see that. How that's in there sideways like that so that it stays in. Okay, and I've got a little bit of play that I can pull out. Again, we don't want it too tight. We'll restrict the movement of our stepper motor. We want it to be able to move this nice and easily. Get this screwed down. Okay. Now in theory, this is all set up. Okay. Seems a little like it's got a little bit of play, but we'll get that figured out. All right. The next step is going to be to run our wiring through our drag chain. Normally this wouldn't be that big of a deal. What the issue is, it's not really an issue, it's just kind of a trick. The size of this drag chain is essentially a little smaller than the plug. And this is the small plug. On the wires for our stepper motors, you'll notice that there are two different plugs. One is got 4 pins that will connect to the controller on the back of our laser. The other has 6 pins. This is the one that will connect to the stepper motor itself. Even though this one is wider, it's skinnier and a little bit shorter. So it turns out this is the one we're going to want to run through our drag chain. And the way to do that is to essentially fold it over. This is kind of a weird thing. Kind of fold it over at an angle so it sits on top of the wiring, and then we need to tape that. So here's an example. I've already got one taped up. So you can kind of see how that's taped. And what that allows us to do is run that through our drag chain. Actually, I want to run it through from the other direction. But then it fits through here nice and easily. See, I can just push it right in, just guiding it as we go. This is kind of normal process for some of these drag chains. Fancy drag chains actually open up on here, which is kind of, you just lay the wire in and then close those up. But those cost more, and they really, unless you're putting the wiring in and out frequently, there's no need to get something like that. So what I'm going to do, I've got this one taped up. What I want to do is get this one taped up, and I'm going to lay it right behind, lay it right behind here and tape these two together so I can run these two wires in at the same time. And this is the power connection for our laser and signal for our laser. So what I want to do is get this taped on here as well, so I can run all 3 of these at the same time. This one will fit through no problem. So I'm going to get these wired up and get them pushed through. I've done my tape job. Hopefully this will work well. As you can see, I've got all 3 of these wiring harness cable things in here. And one thing I added was I have a plastic rod that's very thin, and what that'll allow me to do is thread this through first and then pull the wires through, hopefully. I don't know if you've ever tried pushing wires through, but what they tend to do is they tend to kink up like that, and they bend. Pulling through is a much easier way to do that. So I'm going to adjust the camera up just a little bit, and we'll give this a shot. See how this goes. Now, on the drag chain, there are 2 ends to it. So the ends are the ones with the horizontal slots, and that's for attaching and adjusting this. I've taken the one end off just because it was a little bit tight, and I wanted to have it out of the way. This is the end that goes, it's going to be mounted right up here, right above the Y-axis stepper motor. This is the one that will be mounted back here by our controller board. So, because this is the side where the controller board hooks up, the plugs that I've bent over are the ones that go to the stepper motors. I need to run it from this side through to this side, because this is the side that's going to connect up here. So this guy's going to be sitting like this, right? So I need to run these wires from this side. Not a huge deal if you put the wires in the other direction. It's a drag chain. This will work fine either direction. So let's see how this goes. We'll get my plastic dowel run through. Boy, if the wires would only go through that easily, right? Ooh. Okay, so we've got that started. And I'll just slowly pull this. Oh, this is working fantastic. Do it this way, people. Well, and I made a mistake. my rod went through this last. Not a big deal. So what we can do is we can just get this to this point, and I can thread these through just that last one on its own. Oh, that was so easy. Let me get that threaded through. I'll take this tape off. So I will start with one of these guys. You know what might be easier to do? I might just pop this link off the chain. Or not. Anyway, I'll just back this one up a little bit, and then I can push it through. There we go. Do the same with that one. Leave that one to last because that's going to be the easier of the three. There we go. And I'm being careful where I push with this knife. Probably should use something a little less sharp. Alright, get that one through. And finally, it's going to be the laser control wire. That one comes through nice and easily. Okay, there. Now we have our wires threaded through. And I can pop this guy back on, see, because the wires will fit right through there easily. Pop him back into place. Now we're all set. Here are the pieces that we need to attach our drag chain. This bracket will get attached right here using two of these guys. This bracket will be attached down here using square nuts and whatever size bolts these are. The directions again are talking about using the M3/8s, and these are not M3/8s. It's plain and simple. Also, we need 6 of these, and there's only 5 left. So I will only use one of them somewhere that it asks for 2. So let's start getting these assembled. So they want one of these. I'm trying to remember which one I decided I was going to do. Oh, that hole's not big enough. There's a burr on there, and it's not letting me get this. Oh, there's another bolt would fit. No. Okay, so this hole's a little small. I bet you they both are too. These look like they were laser cut. Yep, and they're too small. Let me see if I can thread this through. Maybe. That's going. Whew, it's a tight fit. Alright. Now screwing that through cleared the burr off at least, so it turns freely. So I'm going to get one of these square nuts attached. I think they're funny that they call them square nuts. It's definitely a rectangle. Okay, and then we'll attach a second one. Use the same method here to get that on. Oh, it turns hard. There's a stubborn burr in there. That's going through. There, it's getting easier now. Maybe we've broken something in there. No, clean that burr out. Come on. Ah. Okay, now it's turning freely. Okay, so we can get another one of these on here. Oh, for funny. Okay. So, I'm not sure if this is going to work the way they say it will, but we'll give it a try. So this goes in like that, and then we tighten these up. It would have been nice if they actually had some of those T-nuts. Let's get this bolted on here, see if these little quote-unquote square nuts, yep, that one turned. Alright, let's see if this one turns. Yep, that one turned too, okay. So, let's get that tightened up. So they're working similar to how those T-nuts work, but they're square or rectangular. Alright. And there, that should be tight enough. Woo! Yeah, that's not moving. So what I'll end up doing, because I'm short of these T-nuts, I will use 2 of them to secure the drag chain to this clip that lives up here, because this is the one that's going to be moving all the time. So I want this to be more secure. And then I'll just use one of them down here to secure to this bracket. That's what I'll do. Let's get this other bracket attached now. This is the one that's going to get right up here. And this is held on with what they're calling self-tapping screws. So we need our smallest Allen wrench, I believe. Let's see if that fits. No, we need the next size up. Fortunately, I can reach it. So the next size up Allen wrench is the correct one. We did need this small one for these little screws, though. So let's see if we can get this on here. Nope, same issue. It's a little tight getting this screw in it. That's going to be too tight. All right. I'm going to need to enlarge that hole a little bit so that this screw can fit through it. So I'm going to go out and do that. I will be back with larger holes. I was able to enlarge the holes here using this reamer. So I just was able to put it in, turn this, ream out those holes just a little bit. Now these self-tapping screws just fit, which is kind of what we want. We want them to be a snug fit. So we'll get this one started, and then we'll get the other one going. There. Now come on, get in there. You can do it. I'm gonna have to put a little pressure here too. There, it's starting to grab, I hope. Okay, let's get the other one started. They turn hard. Alright, that's all seems solid, and these screws have protruded out of the back just a teeny little bit. I can feel them there, but hopefully that won't become an issue for anything. Now we need to get the drag chain attached. So the directions show attaching it over on this end first. So we just move this down a little bit. I'll grab the drag chain. Put this in here. Alright. So it says to attach this using this square nut. So square nut goes in here, and the bolt sticks up from the other side. You need to pull this wire a little bit back out of the way. There we go. Ow, sorry. This is going to be one of those tricky things, isn't it? Well, you know what? It would almost be easier to go the other direction. I can access this from the top much more easily. It's not going to get in the way. Let's try this. That worked pretty well. What I'm going to do is loosen that just a little. I can slide this out. That up. There. Yeah. That drag chain's going nowhere. Alright. So that worked. That worked well. We might need to do that up here as well. That's going to be difficult to actually get the wrench underneath here. Now, I suppose I could do it this way. That's going to be extremely difficult to do. So I will go from the top again. This needs to be like that. Okay. Got a little cross-threaded. Let's try that again. Alright, we're going to do this a little different way. This isn't going in very easily. So let's try this. I'm going to take this last link off the drag chain like I did before, because that's what needs to get attached. There. And then we can snap that back on once we're ready. Hopefully this will be a little easier to do without the whole drag chain in the way. Just going to verify that this... Alright, this bolt and nut go together well. So let's go ahead and plop that on there. Got my finger jammed in here. So let's see if we can get that lined up. There we go. It's another one of these steps that would be easier with smaller hands. Alright. Maybe if I had stickier fingers. Put some bubble gum on them or something. Alright, we got these lined up. Get it nice and tight. Again, not over tightening. I don't want to break anything. The tendency to want to over torque stuff. Alright. We'll just these wires back in here, and we can just snap this back into place. There we go. Alright, so we've got all our wires here. We also need to add the cord wrap. That's shown in the picture too. They don't say to put it on. Well, I guess they do say to put it on. Well, they don't show it here, do they? They do show it here. On page 23, they show the wires coming out wrapped up. So we'll get that going here as well once we get the stuff plugged in. Alright, this is, I labeled these so I knew which one was which. This one has an X on it. That's our X motor, so I guess that one will go there. This was obviously for our laser, because that's the different cable. So that one will run over here as well. This one, this is the 6-pin. That connects down here to this stepper motor for our Y travel. So let's get that plugged in. Alright. Here's Y. This is Which one? This one's Y. I did label them on both sides. Alright, so I can make sure that there's a little bit of slack here, but not too much. I need to pull some of that back. Just checking the lengths of the cables. Plenty of room to reach over there. This one's going to need, I need to pull a little bit of this back. Okay. Okay, the drag chain looks like it's doing its job. Hopefully it doesn't hit that. Yeah, I'm going to move this drag chain out just a little bit. It looks like I've got some room, and we need to have it as far away from this rail as possible so that our carriage doesn't hit. And if I had paid more attention to the directions, it actually has an arrow on there showing to push it out that direction. So let's help if I use the correct tool. Alright, let's use this little guy. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to have this out as far as it'll go. Okay, and tightened up. I probably should do that up here as well. I'll just loosen these just a little bit. Okay, there, now that drag chain sits a little bit further away, and that should give plenty of room for this Y travel to move back and forth. Alright, let's get the cable wrap and get that wrapped up. So, here the cable wrap came in this little bag, so we'll just open it. Pull this thing out. That's way more cable wrap than we're probably going to need, which is good. I'd rather have too much than not enough. So we'll start about here. See if we can get this wrapping around all of this. Okay, probably will need more than this because it does use about twice as much to control all these cables than its smallest diameter. This will be really nice to have to keep all these wires under control when everything's zipping around. There we go. So then now we can start wrapping the cable for the stepper motor and for the laser. Boy, if I only knew how much of this I would need, I could cut it. But I really don't want to cut it and then find out that I cut too much. Although it wouldn't be that big of a deal because I could easily put more on there. So I will get this wrapped up, and then you guys can see the final version of that. From the drag chain, put the wrap on for a little ways and then split off the Y-axis stepper motor cable, have that attached. Then continued the wrap all the way down for a ways, and there's enough cable to reach. This is all the way at its Y maximum, so there's plenty of cable to reach even further. So I've got that, and again, don't know where this board's going to end up, so I've stopped wrapping for now. When we find out where the controller board goes exactly, then we can finish wrapping. Let's plug the laser's signal and power into the red plug. And then we can plug the stepper motor in for the X-axis. Okay. I think I will just take some extra wrap and wrap this into just to keep it under control. The last thing to connect will be the signal for the laser. So that's the red plug, goes into the red socket. And there's our X-axis stepper motor. And it says right on the board, it's really tiny, so I'm not even going to try to get that on there, but it says X, and then here it says Y. So we know this is X, we know this is Y. And then we take our Y and plug it in. We're all set for some testing. Everything's connected. The completed Genmitsu LE5040